I stood in front of the mirror, barely recognizing myself. At 62, I'd spent most of my life in practical clothes, cotton aprons, sturdy skirts, blouses that hid the wear and tear of years spent hunched over a sewing machine. But today, I was wearing a silk dress, emerald green, that hugged my frame in a way I wasn't used to. A small silver pin, shaped like a leaf, glinted at my shoulder. The whole outfit cost more than I'd spent on clothes in a decade. "You look radiant," Mrs. Langley, the shop assistant, said, her smile warm as she smoothed the fabric at my waist. "This color makes your eyes sparkle." I nodded, unsure how to take the compliment. I wasn't used to hearing kind words about my appearance. But today, I wanted to believe her. In 2 weeks, my only son, Samuel Sam, as everyone called him, was celebrating his 20th wedding anniversary with his second wife, Charlotte. Despite the distance that had grown between us, I wanted to show up looking elegant, like I belonged. "Thank you," I said softly, stepping back into the fitting room. "I'll take it." As I paid, I lingered by the shop window, watching the quiet streets of Willow Creek, Ohio, roll by. This small town had been my whole world. I'd opened my little sewing shop here, mended dresses and patched jeans for neighbors, buried my husband here, raised my boy here. Now, Sam's big anniversary party felt like the last tether tying me to this place. I carried the dress bag to my old Honda, its paint chipped but reliable, and checked the time. 2 o'clock. I had an appointment at 3 with Willow Events, a fancy new office on the edge of town. All glass and polished wood, walls lined with photos of smiling couples. A young woman named Jenna greeted me with a bright smile. "Mrs. Langley, so nice to see you. I've got everything ready." She spread folders across her desk, each one detailing the plans for Sam and Charlotte's anniversary party. "Are you sure you want to keep your involvement a secret?" she asked, tilting her head. I nodded. That was my rule from the start. Sam and Charlotte couldn't know I was paying for most of its $75,000 for the venue. Catering, live music, floral arrangements, everything. I told Jenna they thought Charlotte's parents were footing the bill. Her eyebrows shot up, but she didn't push. "Okay, just confirming," she said, her voice gentle. I could tell she was curious. Most parents would want credit for such a gesture, but not me. "It's complicated with Sam," I explained, keeping it brief. "He wouldn't take my money if he knew it came from me." I didn't tell her the whole story. How I'd raised Sam alone after my husband, Tom, passed away 12 years ago from a stroke. How I'd kept my sewing shop running, stitching late into the night to pay the bills. How I'd sold the shop 3 years back for $1.8 million, more money than I ever dreamed of. When Sam went off to college, he started pulling away, acting like our small-town life, my calloused hands, and my simple ways embarrassed him. He built a new world fancy job in finance, upscale friends, and I didn't fit in it. But when I sold the shop, suddenly he started calling again, asking about my finances, hinting at investments, but never really asking about me. "It's all confidential, as we discussed," Jenna said, sliding a stack of papers toward me. I flipped through them. Grand Willow Hotel, gourmet catering, a jazz quartet, roses and lilies, everywhere $75,000 in total. A lot of money, yes, but I could afford it. Sam was my only child, and no matter how distant he'd become, I wanted this day to be perfect for him. "If anything's cancelled in the final week, we can't refund the full amount," Jenna warned as I signed the last page. "I understand," I said, my voice steady. "The party's going forward." Oh, how wrong I was. The weeks passed quietly. Sam didn't call, didn't send an invitation, but I brushed it off as an oversight. What son wouldn't want his mother at such a milestone? I kept busy, altering a few dresses for old clients, visiting the local diner for coffee, and chatting with my grandson, Theodore Theo, as he liked to be called. At 19, Theo was the only one who stayed close. He was Sam's son from his first marriage, a bright kid with a kind heart, studying architecture at college. He'd call me just to talk, sharing stories about his classes or sending me photos of his sketches. "Grandma B, you're coming to Dad's party, right?" he asked one evening over the phone, his voice warm but tinged with worry. "Of course, sweetheart," I said, smiling. I wouldn't miss it. I could hear the relief in his voice. "Good. I was scared you might not show up, with how things are with Dad." He didn't elaborate, but he didn't need to. Theo knew how strained things were between me and Sam. As I hung up, I looked at the dress hanging in my closet. its green silk catching the light. I'd spent my life stitching other people's dreams, wedding gowns, prom dresses, suits for funerals. This time, I was stitching together a moment for myself, a chance to stand tall at my son's celebration. I thought about Tom, how he'd always believed in me, how he'd tell me to hold my head high. I had no idea then that everything was about to unravel. The morning of Sam's 20th anniversary party, the sky was a perfect blue, not a cloud in sight. I woke early, my stomach fluttering with nerves and excitement. I showered, curled my graying hair into soft waves, and slipped into the emerald silk dress. It felt like armor, smooth and cool against my skin. A touch of mascara, a dab of rose-scented perfume, and I was ready. In my purse, I tucked the gift, an envelope with 2 tickets to Hawaii, a dream trip for Sam and Charlotte. I wanted them to have something special, something to remember this milestone. I drove to the Grand Willow Hotel, the fanciest place in Willow Creek. Its marble columns and chandeliers, screaming elegance. My old Honda looked out of place among the sleek SUVs and polished sedans in the parking lot. For a moment, I wondered if I should have taken a cab, but I shook off the thought. This was me, practical, grounded, and I wasn't going to pretend otherwise. Inside, the lobby buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses. Guests in tailored suits and glittering dresses mingled, their voices bright with celebration. I scanned the room, searching for familiar faces, but found none. Most of the crowd must have been Charlotte's family or their high society friends. Sam had never introduced me to many of them. Then, a voice broke through the chatter. "Grandma B." I turned to see Theo, my 19-year-old grandson, weaving through the crowd. His grin was wide, his dark eyes bright, just like his grandfather's. He looked sharp in a navy suit, his tie slightly crooked. "You made it," he said, wrapping me in a tight hug. "I was worried you wouldn't come, with everything." His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. He didn't need to say it. The tension between me and Sam was no secret to him. I smiled, brushing off the ache in my chest. "How could I miss this, sweetheart? It's your dad's big day." Theo beamed, adjusting his tie. "You look amazing, Grandma. Come on, let me introduce you to some people." His warmth felt like a lifeline, pulling me into the moment. But before we could move, Sam appeared. My son stood tall at 38, his broad shoulders filling out a crisp, black suit, his hair neatly combed, though streaks of gray showed at his temples. His face, so much like Tom's, was tight with strain, his smile forced. "Mom," he said, his voice sharp, like he'd just seen a ghost. "What are you doing here?" I froze, my heart sinking. That wasn't the greeting I'd expected. I came for your anniversary party, Sam," I said, my voice steady despite the confusion swirling inside me. He glanced around, his eyes darting to the guests nearby, then grabbed my elbow, guiding me toward a quiet corner near the ballroom doors. His grip was firm, his voice low. "We talked about this," he said. "You're not on the guest list." I blinked, my mind scrambling to make sense of his words. "We never talked about anything," I said, keeping my tone calm. "You haven't called me in weeks." He sighed, his jaw tight, like I was a child who just didn't understand. "Mom, this is a high-end event. Charlotte's parents are here, their friends, our colleagues." He paused, searching for words. "You wouldn't fit in." The truth hit me like a slap. This wasn't a mix-up. I wasn't forgotten. I was deliberately left out. My years of stitching, of building a life from thread and needle, didn't belong in his polished world. "You're ashamed of me," I said. Not a question, but a fact, cold and clear. "No, it's not like that," Sam said quickly. But his eyes betrayed him, flickering with guilt. "Charlotte just wants everything perfect. Her parents spent a lot on this, and you don't want your seamstress mother ruining the picture," I finished for him. My voice quiet but sharp. "Please, Mom, don't start," he said, irritation creeping in. "Let's talk after the party. Something small, just us." Before I could respond, Charlotte approached, her designer gown shimmering under the chandelier. At 35, she was stunning, her auburn hair swept into an elegant updo, her smile practiced but distant. "Sam, is everything okay?" she asked, giving me a quick, assessing glance. "Everything's fine," Sam said, his tone clipped. "Mom was just leaving." Charlotte's smile didn't waver. "Oh, Mrs. Langley, such a shame you missed the main event," she said, her voice dripping with politeness. "Maybe next time." Her words cut deeper than I expected. I looked at Sam, waiting for him to say something, anything, to stand up for me, but he avoided my gaze, staring at the floor. "You weren't welcome here," he said softly, almost a whisper. "Please, just go." Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of them. I'd spent years making excuses for Sam, pretending his distance didn't hurt, but this was different. Something inside me broke, a quiet snap I felt more than heard. "Whatever you say, Sam," I said, my voice calm, though my hands trembled. "Congratulations to you both." Theo reached for me, his voice cracking. "Grandma, please stay, I want you here." I touched his cheek, forcing a smile. "It's okay, sweetheart. Call me tomorrow." As I turned to leave, I felt the weight of eyes on my back. Guests were watching, some whispering, their curiosity sharp. I wondered what Sam had told them about me, his own mother, the woman who wasn't welcome at his celebration. Outside, the sun was still bright, but the air felt colder. I reached my car, slid into the driver's seat, and just sat there, staring at the dashboard. The envelope with the Hawaii ticket sat heavy in my purse. Sam's words echoed in my head, "Not welcome. Not welcome," each one a fresh wound. At 62, after a lifetime of giving, this was how my son saw me. I glanced at my phone. It was 4:30 p.m. The party was starting soon. The one I'd paid for. The one I wasn't allowed to attend. I started the car and drove away, leaving behind the Grand Willow Hotel and the life my son was building without me. The drive home felt like it stretched forever. Willow Creek's familiar streets lined with maple trees and tidy bungalows passed my windshield, but I barely noticed. Sam's words echoed in my head, sharp as needles. "You're not welcome. You don't fit in." At 62, after all I'd given him, my own son had pushed me out of his life like I was nothing. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white, the envelope with the Hawaii ticket still heavy in my purse. I pulled into my driveway, the little white house I'd lived in for 30 years, looking smaller somehow, hollow. I sat there for a moment, frozen, not ready to step inside and face what had just happened. Finally, I forced myself out, my heels clicking on the porch steps. My hands shook as I unlocked the door. Inside, the quiet was deafening. I kicked off my shoes and wandered into the living room, the emerald dress still clinging to me, a reminder of the day I'd hoped for. On the mantel, old photos stared back at me. Sam, as a boy, his gap-toothed grin beaming as he held a kite we'd made together. Sam, at 16, in his soccer uniform, his arms slung round my shoulders. Sam at his first wedding, so young, so proud. When had that boy become the man who'd just sent me away? I picked up a faded picture of me, Tom, and little Sam at a county fair, our faces lit with laughter. Tom was 35, I was 30, Sam just 7. We were a family then, ordinary but happy. "What would you say now, Tom?" I whispered, tracing his smile with my finger. "What would you say to our son?" But Tom had been gone 12 years, taken by a stroke, too sudden to prepare for. Back then, Sam still needed me. He'd come home weekends, help at the sewing shop, tell me about his dreams. Now, those dreams were bigger, shinier, and I wasn't part of them. I set the photo down and sank onto the couch. All those years, I'd kept the shop running after Tom died, threading needles till my fingers ached, saving every penny for Sam's college, his first apartment, his divorce lawyer when his first marriage fell apart. I'd paid for Theo's summer camps, Sam's car repairs, even his credit card debt when he hit a rough patch. And when I sold the shop for $1.8 million, he started calling again, asking about my money, my plans, but never about my heart. My phone buzzed, pulling me out of my thoughts. It was 5:15 p.m. The party would start soon. My party, the one I'd paid $75,000 for, the one I wasn't welcome at. I opened my purse, stared at the Hawaii tickets, and felt something shift inside me, not just hurt, but anger, a quiet, burning resolve. I wasn't going to let this go. I grabbed my phone and called my bank advisor, Paul. He picked up, his voice cheerful, as always. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Langley. Just checking in on your accounts." I stared at the wall, the clock ticking loudly. "Paul, I need to ask something. Can you cancel payments scheduled for the next few hours?" He paused, surprised. "Technically, yes, if they haven't cleared. What are we talking about?" I opened my email, pulling up the list. Grand Willow Hotel, Willow Creek Catering, Harmony Jazz Quartet, Blossom Floral Designs, $75,000 in total. I read each one aloud, my voice steady, growing stronger with every word. I want to stop them all, right now. Paul hesitated. These are big payments. B. Can I ask why? There, for my son's anniversary party, I said, my tone calm but firm, but something's changed. I'm done. He was quiet for a moment, then said, understood. There may be cancellation fees. I'm fine with that. I cut in. Just make it happen. I heard him typing, his voice careful. Most of these are set for tomorrow, so we can freeze them. A few might be processing already. I'll call the back office now. Thank you, Paul, I said. One more thing. I want to move that money into a trust for my grandson, Theodore Randall, for his education. Of course, Paul said, softly. We'll need paperwork, but we can start today. As I hung up, a strange calm settled over me. For years, I'd let Sam take my time, my love, my money, without so much as a thank you. Not anymore. Next, I called Willow Events. Jenna answered, her voice bright. Willow Events, how can I help? Jenna, it's B. Langley, I said plainly. I'm canceling all the payments for Sam's party. There was a long pause, then a nervous laugh. I'm sorry, what? The party's in less than an hour. I've already called my bank, I said. The money's not coming, but the vendors, the hotel, she stammered. This will cause a huge mess. That's not my concern, I said, my voice steady. Let Sam and Charlotte figure it out. Jenna's tone turned frantic. Please, let's talk this through. What happened? It's done, I said. They think Charlotte's parents paid for everything. Maybe it's time they know the truth, that Sam's mother, the one they didn't want there, paid for it all. Oh my God, Jenna whispered. I had no idea. Now you do, I said. Goodbye. I set the phone down, my hands trembling not with fear, but with freedom. For the first time in years, I felt like I was standing up for myself. Then, my phone rang again. Theo's name lit up the screen. I took a deep breath and answered. Grandma, where are you? He asked, his voice tight with worry. Why'd you leave? Your dad asked me to go. Sweetheart, I said softly. He said I wasn't welcome. No way, Theo said, his voice breaking. He had no right. It's okay, honey, I said, trying to keep my tone light. Enjoy the party. Enjoy it, he said, almost a whisper. How can I, after what he did to you? Before I could answer, he lowered his voice. Grandma, something's going on. The hotel manager's arguing with Dad and Charlotte. They look upset. I didn't say anything. Either Paul had moved fast, or Jenna had spilled the news. Then Theo spoke again, his voice quieter, like he was stepping away from the crowd. Grandma, I just heard something. Dad's been telling everyone he paid for the party. That's why he didn't want you here. He didn't want Charlotte's family to know you were the one footing the bill. My breath caught. Sam hadn't just excluded me. He'd lied to everyone, building himself up as the big shot, erasing me completely. The truth burned, but it also set something free inside me. I'm sorry, Theo, I said. But your dad made his choice. I know, he said, his voice heavy. I can't believe he'd do this. Go back to the party, sweetheart, I said gently. Call me later. As I hung up, I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The party I'd paid for was falling apart, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt alive. The next morning, I woke to a pounding on my front door. It was barely 7 a.m., the sky still soft with dawn. At first, I thought it was a dream, but the knocks grew louder, angrier. Mom, open the door. I know you're in there. Sam's voice cut through the quiet, raw and furious. I took a deep breath, slipped on my robe, and walked to the door. My heart was steady, though my hands trembled slightly. I opened it, and there he was, my son, Samuel, looking like he hadn't slept. His suit was rumpled, his eyes red, his face unshaven. He stormed past me into the living room, his footsteps heavy on the hardwood floor. You ruined everything, he shouted, jabbing a finger at me. My anniversary, my reputation, my marriage gone, because of you. Good morning, Sam, I said, my voice even, almost too calm. I walked to the kitchen, needing coffee to face this. The kettle was already on the counter, a small comfort in the chaos. Want some? Don't act like nothing happened, he snapped, his voice shaking with rage. You canceled the payments. You humiliated me in front of Charlotte's family, my friends, everyone. I turned on the kettle, watching the water start to bubble. I know exactly what happened, I said, keeping my tone steady. You told me I wasn't welcome at your party, so I canceled the payments. The ones I made. He froze, his face twisting with disbelief. You planned this, didn't you? Paid for it in secret, just to pull the rug out from under me. I turned to face him, leaning against the counter. No, Sam. When I arranged everything 2 months ago, I thought I'd be there, celebrating with you. What mother expects her own son to shut her out? He opened his mouth, then closed it, his jaw tight. You should have told me, he said. Finally, it was manipulative, hiding it like that. Would you have taken my money if I'd told you? I asked, raising an eyebrow. He didn't answer, just looked away, his silence louder than words. That's what I thought. The kettle whistled, sharp and shrill. I poured the water into my mug, stirring slowly, the spoon clinking against the ceramic. Why do you do it, Sam? Why tell me I didn't belong? Why say I wasn't good enough for your big, fancy party? I wasn't ashamed, he mumbled, but his voice lacked conviction. It was just, the event was for a certain crowd. Charlotte's parents, their friends, they're different. Different from your seamstress mother. I finished for him, my voice quiet but cutting. Because I worked with my hands, because I'm not polished enough for your new life. He flinched, like he wanted to argue, but the truth hung between us, heavy and undeniable. Just fix it, he said, his tone shifting to desperation. Call the bank, tell them it was a mistake. We can reschedule the party. I shook my head, sipping my coffee. It's too late, Sam. The money's gone. Gone, he barked, stepping closer. What do you mean, gone? It's in a trust for Theo, I said calmly. For his college, his future. $75,000, safe and secure. He's 19, with his whole life ahead of him. That money's better spent on him. Sam's face turned red, his fists clenching. That was my party money, he shouted. You had no right. No, I said, meeting his eyes. It was my money, meant for your happiness, but you made it clear I wasn't part of that. So I chose someone who values me. He stared at me, his anger boiling over. You did this to get back at me, he spat. To ruin everything out of spite. I stood straighter, my voice firm, but calm. No, Sam. I did this because, for the first time in years, I chose to respect myself. I've let you ignore me, use me, take from me, without a single thank you. I waited for you to treat me like a mother, not a bank account. But yesterday, telling me I didn't belong, that was cruel. His eyes flashed, but he had no words. He paced, then stopped, his voice dropping to a growl. You'll regret this. I swear you will. The only thing I regret, I said, holding his gaze, is letting you treat me this way for so long. He grabbed a framed photo from the counter, one of us at his high school graduation. Both of us smiling, and threw it to the floor. The glass shattered, shards scattering across the tiles. This isn't over, he hissed. I'll fight that trust. Theo's my son. I have rights. You can try, I said quietly, but it's airtight. My lawyer made sure of that. That money's Theo's now. He froze, his chest heaving, then swept everything else off the counter: a sugar jar, a small vase, a stack of napkins. I don't want to see you again, he yelled from the doorway. You're not my mother anymore. Those words should have cut me to the core. But instead, I felt peace. Like the last frayed thread between us had finally snapped. Goodbye, Sam, I said softly. He slammed the door, the windows rattling in its wake. I heard his car screech out of the driveway, the sound fading into the morning quiet. I stood there, staring at the broken glass on the floor. It felt fitting, somehow our relationship shattered beyond repair. But instead of grief, I felt lighter, like I'd set down a burden I'd carried far too long. My phone buzzed. It was Theo, I answered, bracing myself. Grandma, are you okay? He asked, his voice trembling. Dad just called me. He's furious. I'm fine, sweetheart, I said, managing a small smile. He came by. We talked. He's upset, but he'll get over it. He told me about the trust, Theo said, his tone soft. You gave all that money to me. For school. Yes, I said. It's yours now. For college, grad school, whatever you need. You're kind, Theo. You deserve it. There was a pause, then a quiet sniffle. Grandma, I don't know what to say. Thank you. You don't need to say anything, I said. Just keep being you. I'm so sorry about Dad, he whispered. What he did was wrong. I know, I said gently. But it's his choice, and I've made mine. We talked a little longer, his voice, a small comfort in the storm. As I hung up, I looked at the mess on the floor, the broken photo, the scattered napkins. It was time to clean it up, time to move forward. 6 months later, I sat on the balcony of my new apartment in Charleston, South Carolina, the ocean breeze carrying the scent of salt and jasmine. The sun was setting, painting the sky in soft pinks and golds, and I sipped iced tea from a glass, feeling the warmth of the evening settle into my bones. At 62, I'd left Willow Creek behind, sold my little white house in 3 days, above asking price, like the universe itself was nudging me forward. The move wasn't easy. People called me crazy, said I was too old to start over, that I should stay where things were familiar. But familiar was a weight I no longer wanted to carry. Charleston was different, vibrant, alive, with cobblestone streets and historic charm. My new apartment was small, just a one-bedroom with a view of the water, but it was mine. I'd furnished it from scratch. No old dishes, no ghosts from the past, just a fresh start. I found a sewing circle at the local community center, a group of women who gathered to stitch quilts and share stories. It was there I met Evie Sullivan, a 60-year-old firecracker with a quick laugh and a suitcase full of travel tales. She was divorced, child-free, and had seen more of the world than I'd ever dreamed of. "B, you've got to live a little," she'd say, her eyes sparkling. "The world's waiting." And so, I was preparing for it. In 3 days, I'd board a cruise to the Mediterranean, a dream Tom and I used to talk about late at night, after Sam was asleep. We'd promised ourselves we'd go one day, after the shop was stable, after Sam was grown. But life got in the way. Tom passed, the shop consumed me, and Sam became someone else. Now, at 62, I was finally making that dream real. The tickets were pricey, but the sale of the house and my investments gave me more than enough. I'd earned this. My phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. A message from Theo, my grandson, with a photo of a model he'd built for his architecture class. A sleek, modern building with tiny windows. The caption read, "Aced it, Grandma, thanks to you." I smiled, my heart swelling. Theo was thriving at college, his tuition covered by the trust I'd set up with the $75,000 from Sam's party. He called me every few days, sharing stories about his classes, his dreams of designing skyscrapers. Last month, he'd visited for a weekend. We'd walked along Charleston's waterfront, eaten shrimp and grits at a little cafe, laughed until our sides hurt. "You're different here, Grandma," he'd said, stirring his coffee. "Happier, freer, I feel it." I'd told him, and I meant it, but the conversation always turned to Sam eventually. "Dad's still upset," Theo said, his voice soft. "He doesn't talk about you much, but when your name comes up, he gets quiet, tense." I nodded, unsurprised. Sam had always held grudges. Even as a boy, if things didn't go his way, he'd stew for weeks. "Are he and Charlotte still together?" I asked. "Barely," Theo said, making a face. After the party disaster, they had a smaller event, a quick dinner at a restaurant, maybe 20 people, no band, no Hawaii trip, just a weekend at a local inn. Charlotte's parents sat there like they were at a funeral. Dad tried to act like everything was fine, but you could tell he was miserable. I shook my head, a familiar pang in my chest. "Did he mention me at all?" Theo hesitated. "Not directly, but I know he listens when I talk to you on the phone. He'll linger in the next room, like he's waiting to hear something. I think he misses you, Grandma. He just won't admit it." I didn't respond right away. If Sam missed me, he knew my number. It hadn't changed, but I wasn't holding my breath anymore, waiting for him to come around. That chapter was closed. Back on my balcony, I set the phone down and looked out at the water, the waves catching the last light of the day. I'd started sewing again, not for clients, but for myself. I'd made a new dress last week, bright coral, bold in a way I'd never dared before. At the sewing circle, I was learning to quilt, my fingers rediscovering the rhythm of needle and thread. It felt like coming home to a part of myself I'd forgotten. Evie had become a fast friend, dragging me to art galleries and seafood shacks, filling my days with laughter. "You're a natural, B," she'd said at our last sewing session, admiring my stitches. "You should open a little shop here, sell your designs." I'd laughed, waving her off. "I'm done with shops, Evie. I just want to create for the joy of it." And I was. For the first time in years, I was living for me, not for Sam's approval, not for the expectations of Willow Creek, not for the ghost of Tom's dreams. Just me, B. Langley, stitching together a life I loved. My phone buzzed again. Evie this time. Ready for book club tonight, she texted. I'm picking you up in 20. I smiled, texting back, can't wait. I pulled on the coral dress, its fabric light and playful, a far cry from the practical clothes of my old life. In Willow Creek, I was Sam's mother, Tom's widow, the seamstress. Here in Charleston, I was just be free, alive, and open to whatever came next. As I packed for the Mediterranean cruise, I laid out my essentials: a new swimsuit, a wide-brimmed hat, a small sketchbook for ideas, a phrasebook for Italian. I'd been practicing phrases, hoping to chat with locals in Rome or Santorini. It felt daring, like a door opening to a world I'd only dreamed of. But sometimes, late at night, my thoughts drifted to Sam. Theo had called a week ago, updating me. Sam had taken a new job, still in finance, but with a smaller firm, less pay. Charlotte wasn't happy, called it a step backward, but Sam seemed quieter, more grounded. Maybe that party shook him up, Theo said, made him think. I didn't know if I believed that. Sam was stubborn, always had been, but I'd made peace with his silence. His choices no longer defined me. I stepped back onto the balcony, the Charleston sky now dark, stars twinkling above. I thought of Tom, of the life we'd planned, of the boy Sam used to be. I hope you're proud of me, I whispered, my voice soft in the night. I hope you'd say I deserved this. And then, to no one and everyone, maybe to fate, maybe to myself, I said, thank you for this second chance. At 62, I was living the life I'd always wanted, not waiting for approval, not bending to please others, just living, fully, for me. And here's what I've learned, looking back. Sometimes, the hardest thing is letting go of people, of pain, of the idea that love means holding on, no matter what. But letting go can be freedom. It's not about revenge or bitterness. It's about choosing yourself, your dignity, your joy. For years, I thought my worth was tied to being Sam's mother, to giving everything for him. But now I know, my worth is mine, and no one can take that away. So, to anyone listening, feeling unseen or unappreciated, don't wait for someone else to give you permission to shine. Take that step, sow your own story. The world is waiting, and so is your heart.